when we get into the deeper significance of anything, relationship, communication, sound, music, and so on, you start to realize all the barriers fall away. Because those are illusions we built along the way. Opinions, differences, and so on. There's just something that happens when we allow that to things to fall away. The parting of the Red Sea is really the parting of veils in our consciousness. The significance, Moses leading the Israelites to freedom, is really our soul saying that's enough and leading our human self into a better life. And it must seem really strange to some people, some cultures, some races, religions, groups, to think about like Christians. I'm not a Christian by religion, nor am I any other particular religion. I enjoy it all. It's just like whatever. It all is okay. But they're all practices. They're all things that work for people at this time. There's going to be a point where we look back and go, what was I thinking? Why would I wear that? Whatever it happens to be in our rituals and our ceremonies. There'll be a point where even forgiveness will not be necessary when you're home, because there's nothing left to forgive. Which is a really interesting notion, because that would imply that even right now, if I practiced recognizing there's nothing to forgive, I am, in effect, home. But I can't pretend to believe that there's nothing to forgive. Otherwise, I'm in denial. It's like a 5-year-old going la 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 la, pretending there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to, when in fact you feel hurt and angry. So you can't fake forgiveness, of course. But at the same time, to really practice recognizing, what is it that I need to forgive? Well, so-and-so is annoying. They hurt my feelings. They said something mean. They took something, whatever the people have done. They've harmed us. Sometimes grossly so in this world. And so we think forgiveness is us being told by some higher beings that we're wrong for holding on to our hurt or for being hurt. Like you're wrong. Stop being hurt. Stop being angry. Get over it. Those are not healthy terms. Those are not healthy advisors. They need a therapist, a really good one. They do. And their therapist might need a therapist if the therapist tells them, the same thing. You have to understand, right now, I'm just feeling hurt, and that person needs to be heard. Not enabled, but heard. I'm really sorry. What happened? Well, this happened. Oh, you're kidding. Be with them. Just be with them where they are. But in the back of your mind, you need to remember your job as a listener is, how can I take them home today? Because they're not home when they're hurt. They're in exile. They're off in a planet that, that people are starving for love. Well, in heaven, that's not so. And our job is to bring heaven here through compassion, but also through the complete recognition. What do I need to do right now? What's the next right thing? And the next right thing could be to take someone's hand. Not to tell them to get over it, it's to take their hand. To give them a tissue, but also to recognize whatever you're telling me triggers me. It might bring up stuff for me. And if I practice forgiveness, we're all experiencing forgiveness because I'm playing a role is all. I being any one of us that is a listener. So we give thanks in advance, even before I see the healing in you, the healing of, resurrection we'll call it, the healing. Healing and resurrection mean the same thing. Before I even see it in you, I already know it's happening for you. How do I know that? Because I'm feeling it and we're one. Make sense? So now, and people are okay listening to this part, a parent, a human being, a parent, let's say, can be neglectful and hurtful and so on. And it could be something passed down generation after generation. But when it comes to the right person, along the way, someone finally says, it stops here. I think it was Harry Truman that coined that concept, but the buck stops here. One of the presidents of that era. But it stops here. What that means spiritually is the resentments, the patterns, the addictions, the programming, the genetics stops here. How? Because I do not believe it. So it's the little boy that says the emperor is naked. The one in the fable that says, I don't agree. Well, that's what we are. It's how we do things around here. It's our family. We've been hating for generations. It's just what we do. what? Why? And I was like that as a kid. Why? They always hate you when you ask questions like that. So it was already going to go badly for me. But why would we, Well, and so said, the leader of their religion or their group or their race or whatever it is. And I would say, but they're not making any sense. What? They act like Fred Sanford. This is the big one, Elizabeth. When I would say something seemingly irreverent, but in fact I wasn't meaning to be hurtful. I was like just saying, that doesn't make any sense. It's just because. And I'd say, but if it's not helpful, if it's hurtful, how could you say it's just the way it is? Well, stop asking questions and so on. So in this world, we go through these challenges, and we can actually learn to say it's not going to continue from here. Whether it's ancestral, whether it's emotional, psychological, energetic, it stops here. But if it's going to stop here, I can't just say that. I need to live it. I need to not be like them, whoever they might be, a race or religion or whatever. Need to not be like them. Now, if I go out of my way to not be like them, then I'm actually still in reaction to them. I just mean, I don't feel any resonance. There's a saying that I'm just slightly paraphrasing, and that is, the prince of this world comes and finds no resonance in me. When the ego or evil comes and looking for a place to lock itself in, it finds Teflon. It finds not Velcro, but Teflon. It can't stick. It throws daggers, it throws arrows, it tries to get reactions, and it's just not there because I feel different. Well, you're just like your father, your mother, and people will try that. Well, if it's true, maybe look at it. Only, in particularly, if there's something about family you didn't like, or your religions you didn't like. You might want to look at it if you're still living those old patterns. But don't buy into every bit of that. Somebody will say, oh, you're just like your mother because you have her eyes. You mean she had eyes? I mean, she also had hair. Does that mean I'm just like her because I had hair? People will stretch to make a judgment stick on you. Don't buy it. Just don't buy it. You're just like all other Christians. You're just like all... How can that be? You don't even know me. When people say, what sign are you? I say, what sign do you think I am? They'll say, oh, you're a... Okay, that's it. I knew it. I knew it. All that I've confirmed is you've already had an opinion of me and you want it confirmed. And if I tell you it's a different sign, you'll go, And you'll come up with some reason why it's not fitting you anyway. So I just don't buy it. I don't bother with it, which bothers people. Life on earth is a test. When you're graduated and you ascend, there's no more tests. So you don't have to go to school to have tests. So you don't come here and you don't have tests. It's really simple. Because life is a school. This world is a school. When you believe, like Buddha is saying, you come here because of desire. Rebirth is caused from desire. And people thought it meant, like desire. You must be having secret lusts to cause you to come here. It meant the desire to work on your stuff. It meant the desire to learn what you think you needed to learn. Everybody messes everything up with their translations. Every teacher, poor things, man. It never carries the way it's supposed to be carried. It gets interpreted and misinterpreted, strangely. So we look at the deeper meanings of things and individuality starts to fall away and oneness replaces it. We start to realize the deeper intention to teachers, all the teachers, great teachers originally, was love. And then it gets twisted into love and you must do this or this or this. Love and you must do this or this or this. And it's always added to. And I understand it because we're human beings, so we like variations and flavors. That's fine. But when you get stuck on the flavors and variations, now it's becoming religious or ritual. It's becoming superstitious. And then it becomes hurtful and hateful in some ways, used by some. Life is a schoolroom. This world is a schoolroom. Graduate, you don't come back because you've already passed your tests. What are the ultimate tests? Well, again, ultimately, capital U, ultimately, there is no reason to be here because it's an illusion. What's the meaning of life? You just confirm that there is a life to have a meaning. So you have to get quite metaphysical if you really want to get answers to those kinds of questions. What's the meaning of life? Nothing. And they go, oh, that's deep. You know, they don't get what you mean. I mean, there's no meaning to life because life isn't happening. It's a dream. What's the meaning to a dream? Well, I don't know. Do you like the dream? No. It's a terrible nightmare. Wake up. That's it. An old saying, you know, like a story, a koan, you know, it's like, imagine yourself in an inescapable room. Absolutely no way out. How do you ever escape that room? Because that's this world. How do you break the wheel of life, the wheel of karma? How do you break all that Buddha, when he awakened, he goes, I got it. I'm awake. I got it. What secret did he know? How do you get out of that inescapable room, which is what life is? Inescapable. You are going to, you know, there's people that would say, oh, you incarnate until you're perfected. Do you know how long it takes? Thousands of lifetimes, theoretically, and some people would say tens or hundreds of thousands. Man, I don't have that kind of time. Seriously, what? And it doesn't just mean you put in your time. You've now put in 100,000 lifetimes. You're enlightened. You actually have to become a better person. Every one of those times till where there's nothing left of the ego. Oh, man. No wonder we're depressed. Like, this is like a lot of work. It's heavy, right? You look at it and it's, wow. How do you escape according to that concept? That saying, how do you escape an inescapable room? And I've had all kinds of people in workshops that go, I pictured it's inescapable. I mean, everything from, I kicked the door down. I imagined a door. You know, I had a blowtorch. And they come up with all kinds of ways to escape the inescapable room. There's actually only one way out. I started the story with, and you're all trying to be philosophical. I can tell some of you are like, well, I would do, you know, stop. Anything you come up with is a failure because it's inescapable. So as soon as you start trying, I will no longer try. You know, and you're trying to be philosophical again. No. I started it with, imagine you're in an inescapable room. The only way out, imagine yourself out. And that's this world. Start imagining a different world. Start, not just imagine like, you know, passive imagination or casual imagination. I mean, start living as though. You know, see yourself as a different person and live accordingly. Life is filled with tests, and they're not inconveniences like we think they are, although they feel totally like that. So this concept of Easter, which clearly has gone way off. You know, there's Easter. Easter. A moment where a human being attained divine awareness, said, life is an illusion, and you're all separate in your minds. You believe you're separate. And you believe you're flawed. And you think because you're flawed, according to the old law, the wages of sin is death. You think that you're flawed and that you're going to die. And then you're going to come back and have to do it again and again and again, which is a merciless God concept. God must not like me because apparently I didn't get it right the first time or the second time. So we just have this, you know, and you could even say God's patient. Why? Because we're so messed up and yet God still loves us, which implies God sees us as flawed yet overlooks our flaws. Imagine yourself out of this. Stop believing you're flawed. That was the imagine that you're flawed, and now we're still trying to fix ourselves to get out of the room. That worked out, didn't it? I like the way that just rolled out of there. Good. So instead, start imagining yourself out. Imagine you're a different person than the one that was flawed. What if you're not flawed? Wrap your mind around this idea. What if you're not flawed? Then there's no karma coming to you. There's no debts. How do you do that? Love and forgiveness. Obviously, love and forgiveness. So there's this character, and he gets it. And he says, and you all believe in death. What I'm going to do, because ancient civilizations, from pagan, the Egyptian, cultures all around the world, every continent, practiced something along these lines. Even before we had words to put it into a frame to put it in. There were people that believed the sun comes back every year. Even after cold winters, the sun still comes back. Even if you're in the Nordic countries, the sun still returns. And they worship the sun because it brings warmth. But we think sometimes that all they worshipped was the sun. They were really intending to worship that which brings warmth, which is always God. God is our light and our source and our warmth. Divinity. Whether you believe divine is in the heaven or inside, it still is the source of goodness. So people were right to worship light. When they made it the thing in the sky, it becomes superstitious. When it becomes something within me and you, it becomes real. And it becomes a spiritual and psychological experience. What does it mean to not just worship the sun in the sky, but in each other? It means, oh, my child is an addict. But all that is a winter, and the sun shall come. And I'm going to believe in them even though they look like they're going through winter. Yeah, winter feels cold. It feels isolating. It feels whatever. Just like you're feeling when your child is an addict. I feel scared. I feel cold. I'm worried. What they're going to do and so on. But this too shall pass. So an awakened being stops believing in the room they imagine themselves in and starts imagining themselves out. How? I'm imagining that you are beyond your addictions. I'm holding a vision on your behalf. And that's what the Divine Mother does. The Divine Mother, Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, the Divine Mother. She is a perfectly divine being. She's God in what we call the feminine aspect, although there's no gender involved. In its feminine aspect, she's saying, children, you think that you're in a room that you imagined yourselves into. I'm already imagining you out. But since you believe you're in the room and you are creating these stories and lessons for yourselves, quite insane, but I won't say a word, she's saying, you're imagining that you're flawed and that you're getting better. So I'm going to go ahead and support you where you are. I'll help you manifest lessons because that's where you think you are. You think you're impatient. I know a few people who I'll be bringing into your life tomorrow that'll perfectly mirror that. Not karma like we thought. The world's out to get us, God's out to get us, God's punishing us. That's old superstition. Instead, we're being told, I'm only going to reflect your thoughts so that one day you're going to say, I'm done with this. I'd like something different. She'll say, oh, great. Shake it all up and manifest your new version of what you'd like. There's an experiment that was done as early as the 50s, believe it or not. But way back, they would take a plate of glass and put fine powder on the glass. They would take like a violin bow and play the side of the glass. As though it were a string on a violin. They would use the bow and play any particular note. Every time they played a particular note, the powder would vibrate into a geometric design. Okay? You go look it up. I'm sure they have YouTube by now, things on that. And then you play a different note, it would all change a pattern. Cymatics. And it would all vibrate into a different geometry. Now that's pretty cool, pretty interesting. But what does it mean? Change your thoughts and beliefs and your pattern will change. There's a pattern I'm seeing. It looks kind of chaotic. It looks something strange. That's your life. That's called a relationship. I'd like to change this relationship into something more, harmonious. Wow, that felt much better. Change the vibration, how it's a symbol. Because even in the experiment, someone's choosing what notes to be played. We're sitting around, even metaphysical people going, vibration has to change. And we're doing all kinds of funky, strange things to try to make vibrations change. But even when you do this, you're forgetting, what about responsibility? What about our own power? I am as God created me. I am the living Christ on earth. I am awake. I get it. All I need is for you to change. What do you mean you get it? You still don't get it. Back in, the Divine Mother, boom, back in, and let's get you to learn again. We're just learning based on our own decision to not learn. Good news is, humanity in many ways is getting it and waking up. But it's ever so slowly. We need to choose to change the game, the rules, and we can because we created the game in the first place. And it's time to start waking up. Best thing to do is say, everyone can do as they may, but for me and mine, we will serve the living God. It's like, I'm just going to start living this life myself. But what if I'm the only one? What if I'm living in a country where there's not a lot of deep spirituality? Be the change you'd like to see in the world. Yeah, but I wish I could live somewhere where it was easier. Yeah, but you're not. So start where you are and go from there. There's a divine plan of awakening for all humanity, and the mother's behind that. She's part of the Holy Spirit, which is another name for her, but the Holy Spirit's behind and knows this perfect plan of how everyone can awaken. She's not only aware of us, she's in us. It's our inner divinity knows how to get us there. But our human ego needs to be gotten out of the way so it can come through. We have to move the false self to find the real self. And so that experience 2,000 years ago, where Jesus says, you all believe that you're flawed. The ultimate punishment for your flaw, according to your laws, is death. I have an idea. I'm going to prove that there's no death. So the ancient cultures, all these ancient cultures, and again, pagan, Egyptian, they all had these mythologies about the death in the world and the universe. There's death. But their mythologies would always talk about a resurrection. So Jesus says, I'm going to come and not talk about these stories, these mythologies. I'm not going to tell you about a legend or a story or a solar myth, movements of the planet. I'm going to live it. I'm going to be the sun that comes back whenever someone's ready to feel warmth and light again. I'm going to live it. I'm going to go through the death and I'm going to resurrect. So he does something that is not typically found on this planet. Other great teachers, they died. He came back. He did something different. He proved that death is an illusion. We always heard, even Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, said, death's an illusion. We were taught that death's an illusion, but nobody had shown us this literal awakening. This is a lie. And I'm going to show you. Now, when he did that, he's telling you death is a lie. He's demonstrating it. He's living it. And in so doing, what he's telling us all, when you go through a divorce, come back to life. When you go through a loss, come back to life. You don't literally have to go and prove this or die literally. What you have to do is, any version of death in your life is your test. If you doubt and you don't bounce back or come back to life, then you have another test you'll have to come back and experience. So how's your life doing? How's your, look at your reality around you. How are you doing? You'll see the areas, you'll know the areas that you're failing, and I know it sounds like a heavy word, but it's just a figure of speech. You're failing your tests. They're the ones where you don't feel love and peace. Feel joy. You'll know that because when you call in the presence of God in here, when you call in peace and happiness through love and forgiveness, you feel the effect. When you're hurtful and hateful, there's effects. You eat certain foods, it does something to your chemistry. Certain foods would be acidic, certain foods would be alkalizing to your system. Certain thoughts and behaviors are acidic, and certain ones are alkalizing. Love and forgiveness is always alkalizing. So you'll know what you ate. Edgar Cayce said, the food you eat, your stomach, he said, is a medicine chest. If you want your body to repair itself and you want to be healthy, you should let your body be able to open the medicine chest and get whatever it needs. Oh, that's right. There's nothing in there of value. All I have is energetic hatreds and toxic foods. So when it goes, let's see what's in the medicine chest. Everything has skull and crossbones on it. Poison, poison, poison. So I don't know what to use to heal my body. So it dies, it decays, it hurts, it's in pain. So the same thing in consciousness. Put love and forgiveness into your heart, your system, metaphysically, symbolic of the stomach, but I'm saying in the heart. Put love and forgiveness there. And when you're having down moments, it'll be there as a reserve. It's good karma to be loving and forgiving. You'll be able to call on that whenever you need to. So Jesus is demonstrating, Buddha's demonstrating, I'm demonstrating, you're demonstrating, some of us better than others, that This world is trying to crucify you. It's meaning the ego-based world. It's trying to make you fail. It's trying to make you believe you're a limited being. Because if you fail any test, you are a limited being. Unlimited, you wouldn't fail. So every time we fail, we confirm we are limited beings. And that's what the ego wants. My own psychological ego, the collective ego. That's what it's trying to accomplish. And we give into it and we feed it. And you can say, well, I try not to feed it here. But some people, they're just beyond forgiveness. That's where your limit was today. That's where your test will be tomorrow. Find anybody unforgivable, and that's your test tomorrow. Let no stone be left unturned. Here I am. Here I am. Like Yogananda says, here I am, God. Shine the light, every part of me. Shine the light and show me loving experiences and creeps and creepy things. I don't mind. Show them to me. People that I thought I was over. Where did that come from? Memories and flashes of faces. Do it until there's nothing but light. And don't say, I got to get to that place obsessively where there's only light. Just relax. We're already home dreaming we're still here. So all I need to do is kind of work with those dream symbols that pop in. Nobody has any power to do anything harmful to you in reality, just in this illusion. So start imagining you're out of that room, start imagining that you're a holy being, and you'll start to realize you're invincible. Now all of a sudden, where you used to be able to say, well, this one person's really bad, this one former dictator, current dictator, this bad, that's going to fade away. It's like you feel like, I don't know, it's weird. I feel so different. It's like I don't have opinions anymore. And that's a really good thing. I used to think this and that and the other. Anytime you have an opinion, just understand this. Anytime you have an opinion, you're wrong. That's all. We don't have to figure out which ones are right and wrong. You're just wrong. Just live dangerously and accept that. Now, if you start to go, no, I will select which, that's a control freak. All you have to do is make one mistake on trying to justify one opinion. I'm going to keep one. That's enough to toxify your system. All you need is one virus. You could die from certain viruses, and there you go. Just affirm. I don't even bother. Opinions, just get to that kind of a state. I can have images come into my mind, and I myself, and go, well, that one really doesn't make sense, and I'll go, oh, no. Instead of let me just brush that one aside, because it probably popped in by accident. There's a face of somebody, I don't have any memory of issues. They're there. So they deserve the same holy consciousness as anyone else. And if there's any charge, I surrender that to the mother anyway. Just keep immune. Just keep immune. Raise your immunity by recognizing your value, your light. You're not in that room like you thought you were. Forgive yourself for ever believing you were in that room. It's a metaphor for believing you were flawed. Forgive yourself for thinking anyone was ever any, amount of flawed. But some people are. Be careful. I know it seems that way, and I'm not going to wrong you for feeling that way. Feelings are opinions. So I agree with you. They sure do seem that way. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, when people are coming from their ego, they're always wrong. Because the ego is not a right consciousness. Wrong simply meaning it is not divine. And only divine is real, so therefore it's false. It's an error. So when people are coming from their ego, he says they're in error. They're not in God consciousness. They're dreaming that there's something other than God, and there isn't. So he says, however, your job is to be careful not to try to prove that to them, to force that upon them. Be careful. Because then you're caught in the same web that you see them caught in. Now, it doesn't mean you're trying to enable them and sort of defend them and pretend that what they're saying is right or accurate. But you've got to do your best to be tactful and stealthy. If you want to be a healer and a miracle worker, it's very different than what you thought it was. It's learning to fly under the radar. It's learning to bridge with people that are sometimes acting completely insane and hurtful. But being able to say, how are you doing? What's going on? Oh, you're kidding. And bridging with them instead of wrong. It's, how can I bridge with you? How can I connect with you? Because the ultimate issue for humanity is we believe we're separate from divinity and from each other. If we recognize oneness, that would pass away. How to recognize oneness? By bridging with each other. If I understand what you're saying, if I understand where you're coming from, I must be part of you. When I don't get you, I'm pushing away from you. I'm not saying it's always easy. Sometimes it doesn't even seem possible to connect with some of the crazy things some people will try to say or do and get you to agree with. But you can at least exhibit signs of patience or love without converting people. So as we're coming towards a close, everyone has to accept. Anytime I believed that I was a limited being, I was being crucified. How did that look? Well, people picking on me, bullying me, people telling me I'm wrong all the time, people taking something from me. That's crucified. People gossiping about me, meaning any of us. That's being crucified. Anytime someone ever hurt you, that was a crucifixion. It is. It's a form of crucifixion. Whether it's psychological or physical or financial, it's a form of crucifixion. Loss, death, hurt. You're being crucified. So don't just put Jesus on a cross. You also have been crucified. And it isn't just Jesus. He's the living one. There's also Osiris and many other gods and goddesses in history that demonstrated what resurrection's about. But Jesus lived that as an experience. So, but it's worthless for him to have done that if we don't get it. So whatever you believe Buddha to be, Jesus to be, God to be, you still have to become whatever that great thing would be. How? And on this planet especially. You're going to be crucified. That's everybody. It's going to happen. It's not with a certain age or gender or whatever. It's going to happen. Everyone's going to experience crucifixions. More than one in their lifetime. When you have multiples at once, it's called the dark night of the soul. But everyone's going to experience deaths and crucifixions. But we're supposed to also learn resurrection, and that's what most people didn't do. Everybody knows how to die, but not resurrect. We know how to go, I've gotten used to it. I've lost a job before. Yeah, and you just think you're living and you're surviving and coping. Survival is not thriving. Survival is different than thriving. Survive and thrive. Which one do you want to choose? I want to thrive. That's resurrection. And you can't resurrect without dying well. Meaning, don't hate it, don't resist it, don't judge, don't blame, don't shame. See, I didn't say don't die. I said everybody's going to, but die well. Demonstration, Jesus on the cross, or you going through divorce. It doesn't mean, I'm going to have a spiritual experience. I think I'll sign everything over to my ex, who also found a nice younger blonde friend and is also getting the children and had me put away in a hospital. I'm not telling you to lie to yourself like that. But don't hate. Refuse to hate. And affirm everybody has a light of God in them. Everyone has the Buddha self. Everyone has the Christ self. Everyone's got that. How do I see that? I may not know how today. So I'm asking the Spirit of divinity to show that to me. And that's why people practice compassion. So we can try and practice seeing that divinity. You're going through crucifixion. Die well. So go through it. Doesn't mean signing everything over and showing enabling hurtful behavior. I'm just going to be loving now. That's actually weak, and it's enabling, and it's being a victim. Dying well means I'm going to look at the deeper meanings to things. Dying well means I'm not going to pretend it isn't happening. Dying well means I'm going to not allow any leaks left over in this raft. I'm going to patch my leaks. Still feel some resentment, I'm going to work on that today. I still feel some fear, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to die well. If things are being taken, fine. I'll keep what I can and release what I can't. I'll change what I can and accept what I can't. That's dying well. But still that's not enough, because I didn't resurrect. But my resurrection is determined on how well I died. If I only gave in and surrendered to the process of death in some form, if I only do it halfway, like if I physically am dying, and I hate my doctors who didn't cure me, and I hate my family members who left me genetically with a predisposition towards an illness, I didn't die well. And I'm going to come back with those same family members. And the doctors will be my children. You know? Instead, die well, and you might find that you resurrected. Resurrection means I came out of the experience with a new level of consciousness. That's what it means. I came out of this, school with a new level of consciousness. I came out of that relationship. Yeah, it's strange. There were some hurtful behaviors and so on, but I got it. And I'm choosing to resurrect. See, resurrection is a choice. You can come out of an illness, different. You can come out of a loss, a bad weekend, whatever it happens to be. Resurrect. I don't care if it's a hangover. Try to come out of it different, with a different level of consciousness. I don't deserve it because I'm still a drinker. No, you do deserve it. Not only do you deserve it, it's inevitable. It's just going to be when you accept it. And when you do that, you realize there's nothing that has power over me. When I chose to truly die well and let go for resurrection, the Divine Mother sparks not me into physical birth like say Jesus on Christmas, but sparks a spiritual birth in me. Easter, in some sense, you could say, is more powerful than Christmas. Christmas is about birthing the Christ self. But the Easter holiday is about dying and resurrecting the Christ self, the divine self. One of them is all the hopes of what could be. The other is I've gone through hell and I've come out alive. That's the spiritual birth. Everybody could be birthed to some degree spiritually or in Christ consciousness, or you could have epiphanies or awakenings. You can have that, and to some degree it can fade away again through poor choices. The other means I've already gone through hell and I have come out the other side in a greater sense of light. So Easter is a rebirthing, a powerful, more integrated experience into divine consciousness. And the reason we have a third part that I haven't mentioned, and I'm only mentioning it now in passing, is Ascension. Because what it means is I was crucified. This time I chose to come back to life. The rising from the ashes, the phoenix. Rising from the ashes, rising from divorce, rising from death, rising from illness, rising from financial losses. I get it and I rise. I come back to life. But there's a third thing, which is ascension, which means not only did I come back into my life with a new level of consciousness, it became permanent, and I am permanently taken to a higher level of consciousness. I am that I am. When I do that third stage, I've ascended into new levels of consciousness. I am, for all intents and purposes, at least in this little microcosmic experience of my life, I am an ascended master. Because I got it. I didn't just get it in theory. I walked and applied it in hell. And then I became. So one's going through, one is becoming, and one is being. And when we get that ascension consciousness, we're in that level of being. And I'll call it an ascending master. I'm still here, apparently. So, okay, let's see, pinch, yeah, still here. So I'm still an ascending master. Ascended would feel different. So call yourselves ascended masters, ascending masters, when you deserve it. Pat yourself on the back and say, I really did pretty well with that test. Own it, breathe it in. Not everybody's going to appreciate it and say, wow, I saw that you really did well. They're not going to always get it. But you better get it and appreciate it. Live it, shine that light. And then, without you realizing it, you're going to be taken to a new level of consciousness even beyond that. One that your efforts can't control. It's something that quickens from spirit in our hearts. And boom, we're a new level of consciousness. You're an ascending master. Make sense? All right. Beneath all this, you could simplify it again, love and forgiveness. But remember, love and forgiveness for yourself and love and forgiveness for others. I forgive others for what I believe they did. I forgive myself for judging those people. And then I eventually realize, wow, in my divinity, there's nothing left to forgive. Well, somebody just barked at me, but I don't care. I don't need to forgive them because it didn't land. I'm going to forgive you for the breeze that just blew by. It's all it was. You were shouting, you were yelling, you're attacking, nothing. You know, the symbolism of Buddha becoming enlightened. All these arrows come flying at him, and they turn to rose petals in one of the stories, right? Rose petals. Well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Wow, that's cool. Try that. Try next time in a divorce settlement. Try next time you're being fired for reasons that you didn't contribute to, like they said. Rose petals, rose petals. See if you're successful at that. No, it doesn't always go. You go to a family reunion and rose petals. All I see is rose petals. You know, it's not going to go over well. It's still fun to do it, you know. You never know. It's kind of fun to try. But don't enjoy it too much, because then you'll have to forgive yourself. So thank you guys for listening. Let's please take a moment of silence. Setting aside all the stuff of life, all the stuff of the world, things that involve concerns and worries and conflicts, lack, beliefs and limitation. Be aware of yourself sitting in this room, seemingly quiet, relaxed, calm, beginning a meditation. And I'll share part of a prayer, the Hawaiian Oponopono prayer. And just imagine your heart and soul experiencing this. Allow to appear before you a person or persons that you've ever known that you need to do some healing with. You don't have to decide who they are. Let them just appear. Surrender. Trust the Divine Mother to bring them to mind. And if nobody comes to mind, just imagine saying this from your heart and soul to all beings. To you, you're saying to them, to you, or to everyone I've ever known for that matter, if for any reason you have felt hurt or confused by me in any way, intentionally or unintentionally, please hear and absorb the following from my soul to yours. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I knew not what I was doing. The truth is, I love you. My soul, the truth is, my soul can only love. And the you I see when I'm coming from my soul is only love. So the truth is, I love you. Thank you. And hear that in your mind. Picture all those people turning into sparkles of light and not people anymore. Not people with personalities, differences, behaviors, just sparkles of light. Because when we truly love and forgive people and allow them to forgive us and we forgive ourselves, everyone is light. Breathe all that light in. Let it empower you. The love you've given them now comes back to you and it empowers you. Greater light. And that greater light gives us the power to even go one step further and say the following. To everyone who ever feels that they have hurt or confused me in any way, anyone that ever have believed, intentionally or unintentionally, that they hurt me in any way, please hear and absorb these words from my soul to yours. I love you. I'm sorry that we experienced that. Sorry in the sense simply of it was unfortunate, unnecessary. In our divinity, that's not how we treat each other. You simply didn't know what you were doing because you were coming from a part of you that you thought existed. But only God exists. I love you. And I forgive you. Thank you. See all such people turning to light. It's who we all really are anyway. I forgive others. I forgive myself. And now for the next minute, I'm just going to focus on being in such a holy state that there's nothing to forgive. I am the embodiment of holiness. Holiness means wholeness. Wholeness means oneness. And in oneness, there can be no division between one and another, battling, needing to forgive. Just basking in a tone of light. Just hear that, feel that, see that. The bow is playing a different note on the glass. There's one of harmony, peace, compassion, love. Love is here. Where there was a tomb, rays of light come beaming from around the stone rolled in front of the door. Light beaming. It's my divine self. The stone rolls away or disappears. Where Jesus once said, Lazarus, come forth. I and the divine in me speaks to my humanness. Come forth. Come forth into a new self. Come forth into a new life. Rise. Come on. Get up. You are not the death, the divorce, the loss, the sickness. You are not those things. Come forth out of death and disease of mind. You are not addiction. Step out and just watch yourself emerging from the tomb. Glorious being. What marvelous thing to imagine Jesus coming out of a tomb on Easter. That's me coming out of a tomb. And he encourages me to see that. It's not sacrilegious. There is the Christ I am. And breathe in that presence into your heart and soul. Be a new person. In mind, body, and soul. Spiritually and personally, my new self is light, lighter, alive, awakened. I am not determined by my skin color, gender, genetics. I am as God created me. Holy.